Welcome, Seeker, to the Aurelda Soul podcast, a place where story, remembering, and truth weave together in mythic light. Today's episode is called Queer Spiritual Bypassing, The Wound Beneath the White Sage. Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked into a spiritual space, a yoga studio, a cacao circle, a breathwork class, mala beads clacking, white sage swirling in the air, a Rumi quote on the wall, and felt that subtle chill the moment you showed up as your whole self? If you're queer, sensitive, or living with an open heart, maybe you felt it too. Not outright rejection, something subtle, a silent contract. Today we're naming that. It's queer spiritual bypassing. There's a wound beneath all that incense and intention, a wound that many spiritual men carry but never quite touch. It's not personal, it's patterned. It happens when your truth doesn't flatter someone's mask, when your story doesn't reinforce the performance of healing, when you reach for that part they've buried beneath technique and that's terrifying to them. Queer spiritual bypassing happens when spirituality is used as a shield to avoid discomfort of queerness and emotionality, to silence the raw, nonlinear, sacred intimacy that queers and sensitives naturally bring, to replace real presence with performance, credentials, or curated acceptance. That's why I wrote the Aurelda Chronicles, because I saw that the spiritual community could become just another club, another hierarchy, another room where softness was sidelined, queerness tokenized, and presence replaced by performance. I know what it's like to show up open-hearted and be unseen in the name of consciousness. So I wrote the myth that doesn't need permission. I made resonance more important than credentials. And I wrote Moan, a character who never leaves any part of himself at the door. And now, when someone dismisses the story with a nod of, cool bro, I'm not losing anything. They are. Because Aurelda offers them a mirror they're never brave enough to look into. The silent contract. Leave that part of you at the door. Let's name the unwritten contract in so many spiritual spaces. It goes a little something like this. I love you and I accept you, but only if you don't make me feel uncomfortable. Only if your truth doesn't outshine my persona. Only if your queerness stays poetic, not embodied. Only if your softness doesn't confront my rigidity. And only if your remembering doesn't dismantle my performance of wisdom. It's conditional love, curated acceptance, spiritual bypassing dressed in white linen. What they're really saying is, be small enough that I can still feel like I'm the powerful one in the room. I didn't come here to edit the sacred out of my queerness, my sensitivity, or my visionary way of seeing. I came to embody what so many pretend to teach, because the deepest remembering looks nothing like control, and everything like surrender. It reminds me of the Mel Robbins book, The Let Them Theory. Let them, as she says, be controlling. Let them have their illusions. Let them. Only thing I can control is what I think, how I feel, and how I react. And my mysticism may be their mess, but it's my beauty. It's my truth. So if they want meth and not a mirror, let them. Aurelda, a door that never closes. That subtle text that says, quote, leave that part of you at the door. You feel it for a reason. And Aurelda, I wrote it so that door never has to exist again, because here you don't have to leave any part of yourself behind to belong. Not in the myth, not in the world, not in Aurelda, not ever again. Even Google tries to bypass the truth. And it's not just yoga studios and men's circles, it's systematic. For example, in Google's Google Ads keyword tool, the algorithm quietly erases these wounds. If you type, for example, quote, queer spiritual bypassing, the truth, you'll see it and live. The system told me it's too specific. The algorithm removed it from keyword results, smoothing over the discomfort, refusing to reflect back the truth. But here's what the system can't erase. Queer spiritual bypassing is real, and the world needs stories, language, and spaces where we don't have to shrink, we don't have to explain, and we don't have to leave the truest part of ourselves at the threshold. That's why I created Aurelda. That's why I'm sharing it now. If you've ever felt unseen in a room full of, quote, light, know this. There is a story and a world where the whole self is not just welcomed, it is essential. And just in case anyone feels that urge to toss another Rumi quote at you as spiritual band-aid, remember Rumi said himself, quote, tear off the mask, your face is glorious. Not fit in, not shrink down, not leave that part of you at the door, but show up whole, shine. That's the invitation. That's the myth. Thank you so much for listening to the Aurelda Soul podcast. I'm Jason Samadhi, the heart-centered creator of Aurelda. If this episode moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. If you have a story about spiritual bypassing, especially as a queer or sensitive soul, I'd love to hear it. You can find more, read the myth, and join the remembering at Aurelda.com. And until next time, don't leave any part of yourself at the door. You belong here. Much love, and make it a beautiful day.